Nancy,
What?
wait a minute. You forgot to tell me that you're queen for a day.
Look
Is
at
that on
this.
you? What is on your head?
I know, it's embarrassing. Okay, everybody, I'm not queen for a day, or maybe I am queen for a day. But the reality is I'm visiting my mama. My husband and I are staying here for the week. And the only place that was a safe haven to do any kind of recording this week
Yes.
is in my mom's bathroom / closet / dressing area. So that's her closet. And it's got a light that's beautiful, but it looks like I'm wearing my crown.
Oh, you are a queen. I love that. Do you remember that show, Queen for a Day? Oh my gosh.
I do.
You. Oh my.
Elaine, before we get started, while I'm in LA, I've always said LA to me, even though I don't live here anymore.
Yes.
It's a small town, right? We've talked about that
Oh,
growing up for us natives. But so this is a funny story. I go to get yogurt for my husband and my mom. I don't know if you remember, I forgot the name of the place now, but anyways, it's a place that's been there for many years. So many the Big Chill, so many years. That I used to sell my salad dressings and cookies for Nancy's Healthy Kitchen. Anyway, so I go to get them yogurt. My husband likes a non-fat yogurt shake, but adding Oreo cookies. So cookies and cream. And my mom wanted chocolate yogurt, and so did I. So I go and I order it, and the sweet young gal is making it all, and I goes to pay, and I take out my credit card, and she says, "Oh, we're cash only." And I'm like, okay, no problem. I go into my purse. I don't have any cash because I have only my credit card hold. I had a smaller purse. And so I'm digging through everything and I'm looking. I'm like, I'm like, how much was it? It was $23. I was bringing yogurt home. So I'm like, oh my God. So this lady from Ocean of the gal says, oh, well, we have an ATM. I'm like, I didn't bring my wallet. I just have a little card of my Costco credit card.
Did you have a driver's license? Yeah.
I didn't have any. I had my driver's license. Yeah, I did. All right. So anyways, this really nice lady was eating her yogurt behind me and she goes, well, what do you need? I'll pay for your yogurt. Oh. I'm like, it's $23. No, I can't accept. She goes, no, really. Let me pay it forward. I'll pay for your yogurt. I'm like, no, I have a checkbook. I'll write you a check. And she goes, oh, do you do Zelle? I'm like, yeah, I do Zelle. Take out my phone, go to my bank account. We find her name and number and boom, I paid her back. A long story to say, LA is still a small, lovely,
a nice,
loving town.
Yes.
It is a nice town.
Darn it. I want some of that yogurt.
So good. Yeah.
That's a great story. Oh, well, we've got somebody really special today. I mean, I always say that everybody's special, but this is a very intriguing woman. And this is Jessica Lowenstein, and she's a licensed psychotherapist, a spiritual teacher, and a meditation guide with over 30 years of experience. She's been helping people navigate deep transformation. So this is pretty heavy stuff.
It is. And her work weaves together trauma therapy, mindfulness, dream work, and embodied spiritual practice.
Several years ago, Jessica stepped away from her longtime psychotherapy practice, and she entered a multi-year journey of what she calls profound healing, inner listening, and spiritual awakening.
She's here today to share that journey with all of us. How lucky are we? And how following your inner call can lead us all to a more authentic, connected, and meaningful life. So with that, let's dive in with Jessica Lowenstein.
Right.
Hey there, friends, it's Nancy and Elaine. They're the Deep Diving Divas, it's quite a name. They're diving deep into the things that matter most, from friendships to family and so much more. Join them each week for a splash of fun.
Hi, Jessica. It is great to finally meet you.
Hi. Hi, Jessica.
Thanks for having me. Hi, Nancy.
Well, it's such a pleasure. Listen, for everybody out there, we've known each other, 50 years. You were a little girl. But the way I know you, your dad and my husband are best of friends. And they started out being friends at 12 and 13 or 13 and 14. And although we didn't know, we knew you as a kid, a little kid. You came to our tennis camp. But the real reality is we didn't know you as an adult. Mm-hmm. And only in the last several years, we got to meet you with your husband, spend time with your sweet mom. And so such a pleasure. And we love the idea of what you're doing now. So let's just dive in.
Yes. Honestly, we do know from reading your story that in 2018, you closed your longtime psychotherapy practice. You entered what you've called a significant pause. I mean, it's significant. So you have to explain, what does that mean when it's significant as opposed to just a pause? And what led to that decision? What made you do that?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Well, I have to say that the call to pause came 10 years before I actually made the pause. But my husband and I were living and working in Los Angeles, and I just had this deep inner knowing that I needed to get out of there. I needed to get out of the city and move into nature. And I had this intuition that I needed to create the conducive space for the soul journey that I was about to take, that I'd been preparing my whole life for. I didn't actually know what that would be, but I had the what, like I knew what I needed to do, but I didn't have the why. I didn't quite know why. And that call came early, like 2008, I would say. And then my husband and I eventually made the move. I had to convince him. He was happy in LA. He had no desire to move, out. But I had such a strong knowing. And we made the move, but we ended up commuting back and forth, and it ended up making our lives more complicated and stressful when we had tried to make it more simple by living in nature. So it was a rocky beginning. But what ultimately led to the final decision and kind of mandate was that my body broke down, and I was forced to take a significant pause.
Interesting.
And what do you mean by your body broke down? Do you feel like going into that at all?
Sure.
I
mean, it was sort of like a rolling shutdown. It was, I made the move. We moved out of town. I was in line to sort of do something with this move, but I wasn't really doing it. I was still working, striving, commuting, and my body was not happy about that. And little by little, it started to really shut down. And at first it was crippling back pain. Then it was crippling knee pain. And I mean crippling, like I could not physically do anything.
And you never had any of these symptoms before?
No. And I was in my 40s. It was way too young for this breakdown. And then I caught a respiratory virus that took me about a year to recover from. But the real clincher was I lost my voice after that. And I couldn't even work anymore. And it was as if the universe was saying, and my body was saying, you've set it up. And if you're not going to stop, I'm going to stop you. And so I had no choice. It was like a forced surrender.
Yes.
It really was. And at the same time that my body was breaking down, my body was communicating with me through dreams. And I started really becoming a dreamer. And my dream life became as important as my waking life in terms of what it was revealing to me. And I was releasing, and I was revealing, and I was healing. And about 2 years into this time, which we can talk more about, I had a dream that helped diagnose my breast cancer, which was not caught in a mammogram.
Oh my goodness.
This was the time.
During the time. It was actually 2020. So 2 years into my significant pause, I had this dream right at the beginning of COVID. And I had been a trauma therapist for, 20 years. I've spent my career guiding people into the body, because the body is what holds the wisdom, right? It's like we are made up of elements of earth. We are going back to the earth. We came from the earth, and yet we do not live in our bodies. In our culture, we live in our heads. Right? And so, I had spent my whole life helping people understand the wisdom in the body, and it was talking to me big time.
Isn't
That's
that
incredible?
So,
So you spoke about how your body at this point really led the way.
Yeah.
Can you share more about how the body plays that central role? Because it sounds like all the years that you were doing trauma therapy, eating disorders, you didn't realize that that was so significant. So how did you come to that? And how can you help others like us that maybe aren't in tune? We're just all in our head, how we, how the body plays a role.
Yeah. I mean, it is so much about listening to, because it's always giving us messages. There's always feedback happening, right? If we're depleted, if we're drained, if we're, having physical symptoms, there seems to be always some sort of message that the body is relaying to us. And oftentimes, like I said, because in our culture, we're really geared towards striving. We're not geared towards stopping and pausing and listening. So the pause, it might be significant as it was for me, but it might be a micro pause. It might be just, I'm feeling depleted or tired today. And what does this vehicle need, in this moment?
Is that depletion feeling physically like you feel like the blood has come out of your body, you're exhausted and drained, you can't move? Or do you feel like your brain can no longer function? Because that's
could be any, right?
I never get that like tired, but sometimes I feel like my brain, it's full, it's full. It needs to be, you need to start deleting.
You need to start emptying, and one of the best ways I think to empty is to go into nature, to take a walk, to put our feet on the ground, to journal, to spend some time in quiet reflection, but to get away from filling. We do so much filling. We don't really know how to empty. We don't. And so the pause is an opportunity to then deeply listen. And so, yes, it doesn't have to be physical. It looks different for everyone, but we just know that we're sort of tapped out, right? The body gives us some sort of message.
For a lot of women, how do you give yourself the permission to say, okay, that's it, I'm going to pause?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's your life. It's our life. No one knows but us, the direction and what we need. And we're so used to people pleasing and taking care of others. And it can be really subtle. I didn't realize the degree to which I had set up that system in my community with my husband or my friends, where I kind of trained people to rely on me.
Oh, that is a perfect word to say, train.
Right. And that's what we all
Elaine.
And that's on us.
It's our mistake.
It's on us. And then we have to correct that.
If it was more accepting to do this pause, then other women who would get that signal, but since everybody is working at the same level, most women are, that same level, that when you stop, it is very obvious to others, like, what's wrong with you? Or, where are you going? Are you having a problem? Are you having are you freaking out? Are you having a break? Whatever it is, because no one's accustomed to that. So we're not trained for this. I mean, this maybe should be taught at a very young age.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because I was just teaching a workshop last weekend, and there was a woman in our, age range that was saying, don't you think this should be taught to the young kids, the pause? And there's one of the Buddhist teachers that I study with has developed 9 principles of relational mindfulness. And that is something that would be so great to teach to kids too. And, we could talk about that another time, but really it starts with the pause and the deep listening and the inquiry as to what's actually going on with us. And to your point, we have to be able to tolerate the discomfort of what others might think. And again, take care of ourselves and our own life, because it's our one precious life. How do we want to live it? And we're so, I'm kind of jumping ahead, but we're in a time where we're all very out of balance with our true nature, with our true self. Haven't you heard the anxious generation?
Oh, yeah.
We're disconnected, we're divided. And this journey for me was really the why that I ended up discovering. was that I was so out of balance from my essence and my authentic self and my true nature, because I was striving, because I'm such a hard worker and pusher, that it turned out that this conducive space that I was creating was so that I could. One of my Buddhist teachers says it's not about finding balance, it's about correcting imbalance. So I was really in a process of shedding and correcting imbalance to get back to my core self. But in answer to your question, there's no easy answer. We have to tolerate the discomfort of disappointing others. And so what if somebody asks us, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm just taking a pause. I need some space.
Or why aren't you working? I mean,
Yeah.
because it's not like you're older and yes, it's an appropriate time to retire. For some people, it's like, why are you doing that? There's something on your life. So
yeah. And that's none of anyone's business, really.
I do set my boundaries. I'm comfortable saying, I'm taking a pause, or I really wish I could, but I'm sorry I can't. And I'm good with my decision and my answer, because I know that I still am the most giving person, and I'm very involved with my family, and I'll do anything for my inner circle. But I'm really good at setting that boundary of just my inner circle. You can't save the world. Can't. And Jessica, maybe we talked off camera, but please share the analogy about being in the car.
Oh, about our energy is such a precious resource, and that if we're driving down the freeway, we're not throwing money out the window, but that's what we often are doing with our energy, is throwing it away. And so how do we better manage our energy? And what you said is so great, Nancy, setting those boundaries, being comfortable with disappointing others and all of that. I would say that this significant pause was a bit more than that for me. It was a soul transformation. It wasn't just about, for me, saying no or setting boundaries. It was about shedding and walking into the unknown, really. And it was akin to, there's something called the heroine's journey.
Oh.
Which is a riff off of the hero's journey that Joseph Campbell wrote about. But for the hero and for the women's arc, it's a more feminine journey of spiritual transformation that women throughout time have gone through, that we're all on in different ways at different times, even if we're not conscious of it. But my journey really mirrors that sort of mythical, archetypal journey of a woman's transformation. And it always starts with a call, always a call that something is off, that, what is my purpose now? What is my divine right, path? It always involves a descent into the unknown. So that's kind of where we are in my sharing of my journeys. I was descending into the unknown. There's a great quote by, I think it's Andrew Gide. It says, in order to discover new lands, we must consent to lose sight of the shore for a very long time.
Well, let me ask you, Jessica, what is your daily life like? If you could describe a day as opposed
now I'm working my ass off again.
to...
I mean, this time was a few years, which is longer than most people can take.
Yes.
I came out of it about 3 years later and started going back into life, because it doesn't last forever, right? This pause that I was in was a specific moment in time, and that's over.
Yes.
And so I'm back in the world, working and traveling and teaching, and frankly, feeling very depleted and getting ready to go on personal retreat on Saturday for a couple weeks, because I'm out of balance.
Right.
So
when you're doing this pause, like when during
when it was in that period.
But what was it like? What would be a typical day?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was a lot of non-doing. It was a lot of being. I spent a lot of time in nature. I was in the garden a lot. I was paying attention to the slow cycles of life and nature and animals. I was reading, I was resting, I was writing. I mean, I know that we have a lot of different questions to go through, but I'm actually answering a lot of them as we go, and maybe that's
great.
fine.
This is great.
Is that okay? Yeah. So like, for example, I created a women's dream group, a dream pod, and I met with women dreamers and we talked about our dreams once a week. I joined a women's writing group, and that was so profound to help me metabolize and make sense of what was happening and be witnessed by other women. And, you know, I went deeper into my Buddhist studies and training. I worked with a therapist, shaman, healers. I mean, I collected my group of support people. So I can't necessarily give you a typical day, but there was all of that. And then I had this incredible husband and it could just make me want to cry. He didn't ask anything of me. He knew I needed to do some deep work and deep healing. He never once in 3 years said, "When are you going to be done?"
Isn't that what a beautiful person? I've only met Todd a couple times and I'm completely impressed, but now I'm really impressed. That is truly somebody that absolutely loves you and wants the best for you.
And he knew. He had been with me since we've been together since we were 18.
Right.
On and off. And he knew that I needed to do this deep work. And here's the great twist. Now he's in a significant pause.
Oh.
And I get to support him.
Oh.
And he even says, which I think is so vulnerable and beautiful for a man, watching you go through that period made it easier for me to do it because I saw that nothing terrible happened. I saw that, you know, it was just a period of time.
Yes.
And now he's taking a version of it. He lost his father last year. He's not at his job anymore. And he's taking some time to recover and heal.
Huh.
So now you say, okay, I was going to say, now you've done this pause 4 years plus. And then how did you know when you were ready to dive back in? Because now you said you've taken too much of a dive.
I might actually say I came out too soon.
Huh.
Oh.
I started to feel ready, and but I feel like I may have came back too soon. Anyway, how did I know? You just know. In the same way that you know you need to pause, you know that you're ready to come back and re-enter the fold of life. You know, I started getting more calls from old therapy clients that needed some support because I really didn't see clients during this period very much, a little bit, but not much. And people asking me and knowing what I had been doing and wanting to know more about it. And, you know, it just sort of gradually started to happen. And that's been almost 4 years now that I've been back in the fold of life. Yeah. And it's still evolving. You know what I mean? It's not like a discrete period and then it's over. I mean, I do think that fundamentally changed me and my whole operating system, what I went through. But it continues to evolve, you know, as we all do, you know?
Well, do you think that, I know when Nancy asked you about, I mean, when you're stepping out into the unknown, you mentioned that a couple times, getting out into the unknown. I mean, that can be fearful.
Yes.
And so how do individuals, well, first of all, when we talk about the unknown, what does that mean? Like, is that how long you're going to live or what's going to happen to your body? Or are you going to get an illness? So what is that unknown? And then how do you get the courage to do what you did if you're talking to other people out there?
Yeah. I mean, those are great questions. I mean, for me, the unknown was my body broke down. I got breast cancer. I went through cancer treatment. But also I was shedding my roles, my identities, all the things we're taught in our culture to value. I was shedding all of that to discover who I was without all of that. And that's what the unknown was for me, just really stepping into I have no idea what my life is going to look like on the other side of this. Will I go back to working with clients? Will I go back? Will I do something completely different? I had no idea. That's the unknown. We don't get to know, you know?
What did you learn about yourself, if you had to describe it? And let's just say, some adjectives about you, how you now handle life.
Well, I can say, for other people, this was my journey, but it's not unique. I think everyone could benefit from a pause, a significant pause, a minor pause. The first thing I would say is to trust your inner knowing that it's time to take one, and to have patience, because the process has its own rhythm. It has its own natural unfolding. To be kind and curious as opposed to judgmental and fearful. There is going to be fear, but fear is a little bit like a paper lion. Once we face it, it sort of dissolves. And then it's like my husband said, nothing terrible happened. You just took some time off, find a support system that helps you. Find women who know the way, the elders, the crones of our culture. What else?
That's a good amount.
Yeah.
You're amazing.
Yes.
So if people, I know you give workshops really all over the world, but if people want to know more, how can they get a hold of you? I think you have a great website.
Yeah, it's under construction and being revamped, but you can still reach me that way. It's jessicalowenstein.com. That's probably the best way. I'm not that good on social media. I do it a little bit. I need Elaine, but
right. We all need Elaine.
I just want to say what a pleasure it has been talking with you, and thank you so much for your openness and interest. And I really have enjoyed talking with you both.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you. It's been
Great to see you.
An eye opener. So glad you could be with us. Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.
Everyone, take care. Nancy, I'm at a loss for words after listening to Jessica's words of wisdom. It was an experience.
An experience for sure. She's such a beautiful person and so insightful. And I'm so glad we got to share her with all of you. Okay, everybody, join us on our social media pages at Deep Diving Divas, or podcast or YouTube channel. Until next time.
Bye, Queenie Nancy.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.